You'll never marry again, but your marriage, the one marriage that you
that I had,
was really more like an arranged marriage. You never asked to marry him in the first place.
I didn't.
And you never said that you loved him in the first place.
And
How did you get married? What's the story?
I had a baby. And
how old were you?
I was 14.
Okay.
And I had a baby. And but when I got pregnant, the boy said it wasn't his baby.
Mm-hmm.
And he went on and told Mama about the girl he was liking, how she was high yellow and built like a Coca-Cola bottle. And what makes you think I'm gonna fool with somebody ugly and black and snappy headed like your daughter?
Oh, wow.
Over her.
Mm-hmm.
So his sister said, well, that's what you're doing. Because Mama, he's the only boy that be here, and he be here. Daddy said he ain't been there, he ain't been there.
His dad?
His dad.
His daddy believed him.
Mm-hmm.
If he didn't do, if he said he wasn't messing with her, he wasn't messing with her.
Mm-hmm. So he went his way, and I went my way. And all through the pregnancy, I was alone.
Mm-hmm.
And back then, the little girls I played with on the plantation, I couldn't play with no more. Because I done got pregnant to the older folks. I am to the older folks.
You're a bad influence.
I'm a bad influence for them. And I'm grown. So I couldn't. I didn't have nobody to play with. The only somebody that stood by me was the boy's sister. The boy that got me pregnant, his sister. And so after the baby was born, things was still going on fine with Mama until when the baby was born, he wanted us to get back together. You done said all this about me and went on your way. And then when the baby come looking like you want us to date and start dating and get married and raise the baby. And I told him no. I told him he can go screw his mom.
Oh, go do what to his mom?
Screw her. And so Mama heard me. And when Mama heard me, she came in there where we were. And he said, well, I'm gone, Miss Dale. I tried. And he walked out. And because I wouldn't have him and date him, she would always tell me, you got to find you and that bastard baby somewhere to stay. You can't stay here no more.
Now, this was your mother?
This was my mom.
And you were 14 years old?
I was 14 years old.
You and the bastard baby can't stay with her?
We can't stay with her. And so, and every time she leaves, she was a party woman. And she drank heavy. And every time she leave home, she'll tell me, I'm leaving. But when I get back, you and that bastard child of yours better be gone. But I ain't have nowhere to go. When she come back, I'll be still sitting there, holding my baby. And one night she came in and this other boy, John Hare, was there playing checkers with my oldest brother. They were about the same age.
You know what? I just want to stop this real quick and say this. I think that we really have to examine the role that we play in how children are seen and viewed in our community. Because I know that is a common thing. If you get pregnant, you cannot stay here. The baby is a mark, is a stain on you and the family, so that you have to get out of the family. You're no longer family. That's not my grandchild, or whatever the case may be. But you and that child need to leave because you can't stay here now that you're grown. And then she says her mother was a party woman, and I can imagine that's probably part of the reason that at 14 she was unsupervised. And so I can't even imagine the stress involved in somebody saying, when I get back here, you better not be here. You're going out to the club, lady. Where is she supposed to go in the middle of the night? And it's like, if you don't do as I say and be with a person that you don't want to be with, like even in some Bible verse, it is a verse in the Bible that if a man, capital R words a woman, that he has to marry her. So that sounds good in the Bible, but the woman has to marry her capital R wordist. So now she has to be tied to him forever. So because she did not want to tie herself forever to a man who called her all types of nappy-headed black and ugly and all this other stuff. Now her mother is trying to punish her because at the end of the day, she doesn't want the responsibility of her grandchild being in that house. This right here to me is a travesty. We look at black men and boys and how they regard babies, but do we as a community, do we love and support babies? Do we see babies as a prize? Do we see them as the future? So it's like, it's no wonder women are closing up their wombs. Like a suitcase, just close it up. Like Transformer, more than meets the eye, just close it back up into yourself. I see why. We don't appreciate babies in this community. We don't care about the future. We don't make special concessions for the gift that is life. We see pregnant women as a burden. We see children as a burden. I can't even tell you how many of my friends used to scream. Like when I had them as my friends, they would scream at their children. They pushed their children away. I had to leave a friendship because of the way this woman spoke to and treated her son. The way she would just shove him, get away from, shut up. I couldn't be a party to that. I had to leave that friendship. I thought that there were some much bigger issues there. But how do we regard children in our community, period, point blank? How do we? And I want us to take this time to look at ourselves and how we behave behind the scenes. Do you treat your child as if they are something precious coming to tell you something amazing, like one of your favorite people that you want to interact with? Or do you treat them like a burden, stopping you from scrolling on your phone or getting in your way or whatever the case may be? Do you treat your child like somebody who stopped you from living your life, not that you are who is responsible for your child coming into this life? So yeah, this is deep, but there's a lot that we need to examine about how we show up for children and how we have been taught to regard and show up for children or not show up for them.
They were playing checkers together. And she came in, she said, God damn, you still here? I told you when I got back, I want you and that bastard child to be gone. He didn't even say a word. They just kept playing. And then the next day he came down and he asked me, was Mama there? I said, yes. He said, well, tell her I want to holler at her, man. And
so he ain't asked you nothing?
He never asked me to marry.
I had the baby. Mm-hmm. So here's a guy that's asking to speak to your mom. Now, you don't know why.
I don't know why.
Okay.
But he told her, he said, I heard you last night speaking to Lucy. What you said to her, did you mean it? And she said, like what? He said, you told her that you wanted her and her bastard child to be out of your house. She said, hell yeah, you can have.
Why didn't you hate him, though, after he did? First of all, you didn't ask to be married to him. And after he put you through all the stuff, and I mean a lot of stuff, why didn't you hate him?
Because he didn't mean nothing to me.
Okay.
Wow.
And when God...
So hold on. So the guy who married her, see? It's like marriage was a contract for a maid and a housekeeper and a womb, a surrogate mother and a nanny, a babysitter and a child rearer and a clothes cleaner and a SUO maid. Yeah. So he was like, okay, I see she got a problem on her hands. The family's trying to get rid of her. How do we regard girls in our community? How do we regard children and girls? So she was just a problem that needed to be taken off the mother's hand. Person didn't even ask her. They had no relationship. It was a brother's older friend, but he was sitting there and he overheard, oh, they got a free maid for sale. All I got to do is sign my name on a piece of paper down at the courthouse and I could bring her into my house. I don't even have to stop dating because, you know, they had families up the road. They was doing whatever it is that they wanted to do. They just had you in the house as the maid, the live-in maid, the marrier maid. And then he mistreated her. He never cared for her. She was just a maid to occupy space in the house. Oh, my goodness.
So I told God I wanted him out of my life, wanted him to move him out of my life, but not by death. Because I knew if he went by death, I was going to do it. And my children was going to be left to the state. So I didn't want to be the one to get rid of him and then lose my children too. Mm-hmm. I didn't want that. And I thank God for what he did. And so I was just glad. John was gone, he's gone. Thank God I don't have to work with him no more.
Wow, this is deep. There's a lot to unpack just from this. I'll go back and watch the whole video. It's just that the whole video is almost 20 minutes long, so we can't encompass that into this video. But I'll just react on what it is that I'm, or rather seen and heard about. So they act like the marriages of the olden days are the ones to be emulated. Oh, grandma was so happy back then, wasn't she? In the same ways that old slave masters used to be like, well, my niggas is happy. They back there are singing. Sing to keep from crying. Sing to try to let your burden down. Sing to just reach your heart out and let sound come through you. And they over there confusing that for happiness. What choice did she have? Her mother was disrespecting her and haranguing her, telling her to get out the house. Of a brother's friend overheard this. Somebody asked, why didn't the brother defend her? Because this is the environment into which he was born and raised. He don't know no better. People don't know better when they start to see this type of abuse as normal. So much so that when we go out there into the streets and we come into contact with that type of behavior, we think it's normal. It feels familiar. It feels like an old sweater you just nestle into. I have a family member, a young person, whose mother gave birth to this person very young, right? And I had always attempted to be, I don't want to say the opposite, but a safe space for this person. Right? And this person had a lot of issues with me. And I realized, even so much so that this person even confronted me once. And I'm like, wow, what have I ever done to this person but try to be a safe space, a safe haven? And then one day I asked this person to do a very uncomfortable favor that I needed it last minute. And these are the types of things that this person's mother would do, right? And this person jumped to it gleefully. And I was like, what's going on here? I was like, here I am. I've always tried to be a safe haven, but this person has bucked against me. And then on the day that I have this very inconvenient favor that I need to ask of this person, the person was gleeful to do it. It may have been nostalgic. Maybe that's what they interpret as love. I don't know. And I've tested out this theory 2 or 3 other times. And each and every time, because these are things that I really did need done at that time. And the person jumped to it. Never a complaint. The same way that this person bucked against me, like, oh, I don't like you, just you doing all, right? The same way that me attempting to be placid and offer a safe haven, the way they would, blah, blah, blah. But when I asked this person to go out of their way to do something for me, never a complaint, never that stuff, never that at all. And so it's like we grow up into these things that seem normal to us. And we don't know no better. And thank goodness she was able to get out. But there's so many men nowadays who want this for you. They want this for you because they don't see what was on the other end of it. They don't see the lives that were stifled, the dreams that died inside of these women, the voice that was never spoken of, the justice that was never enacted. They don't see that. They just see what you have done for them, how they're able to live easier because of you. That's what they see. I'm happy she was able to get out. I'm happy that these stories are becoming viral. It's too bad that the woman who put this up took it down, because these stories need to be told. We need to hear from real life people. What are they going to say? Oh, get your cat? She'd probably be much happier with a cat. What are they going to say? Oh, get your dog. You're going to die alone. Where's that man? She was either going to kill him. He would have died alone at her hands. There was no love between them. It was transactional, and he wasn't even good to her in exchange for the transaction. She gave up her youth. How old was he? She gave up her youth, her life. She bore more children for him, and he couldn't be good to her. And she was so disgusted with him that she thought she was going to have to take his life to get rid of him. And she prayed to God to get rid of him, and then he was gone. But people act like men are these gregarious beings who were just so fluffy, so cuddly back in the days. No. They try to blame you, and they're like, oh, I am abusive now because of who it is that you are. If you behave like those women, it would have always been some reason for why you're enacting your abuse. You don't have to abuse anybody regardless of the reason. You're making a choice. You can leave, you can do something else. By the time all of this was going down, hopefully she was able to start making her own money. She did well after he was out of her life, right? I'm glad that she was able to be free, and I'm glad that these stories are coming up because these are things that need to be discussed. They need to be discussed. Let me ask you all this question. How many of you, your grandmothers, have a similar story? This is part of the reason that I do the videos that I do now and why I talk about the women of the past. Because I remember the stories. I remember seeing with my own eyes. I remember the ailments that my grandmother had, the arthritis in her knuckles, the knee that kept buckling, the high blood pressure and stress and all of this other stuff on her. I remember that. And it is because of her that this is the way that I now live. It is because of her, because of what it is that we've seen. Because men who care and give birth to daughters, they hip them. They peep them to game. And then it's no wonder that those same daughters are now, unmarriageable into a system that never benefited her in the first place.
Be a part of the live show with thousands of other viewers. Go to TonyaTko.com/text and join the text notification squad and get a text whenever I go live. Support the show and yourself, and I'll see you on the next live broadcast.